What's going on, guys? Big welcome to our channel. We are team crushing the meta. As you can see, yet another top 8 playmat, as we have already seen from the standard video, which I've got top 8 in standard and now I also got top 8 in premium. And in premium I got 4th place, which is amazing because this is the first time for me to get 4th place. I have 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place, and I also 4th place. So that's pretty cool. I was not planning to going to wars this year. I'm sorry about that, guys, because of college. So I'm very happy that I could take all the stuff I could take without taking any other players' chances to go to wars. So this is the deck list that I played. So you could pause the video to read it, but I will go through it. I will also go through my matchups, which I have on this fancy paper right here. Also shout out to a lot of my friends, which I'll do in a minute. But before we go into this, this is of course a top that I wanted to do for you guys and for all the Spike for the players. All of you guys that wanted to see how could Spike do in the current meta, which they could do amazing, and I think that they deserve definitely a spotlight and definitely another top for Spike. So Spike in standards and Spike in premium is something that I really wanted to do for you guys, and I'm happy that I could do that. Alright, because this deck list will not come online because it's not 1st, 2nd or 3rd place, I will have to do a let's say a deck profile on it, which I will do in this video, and after that I will talk about my matches, and after I talk about matches I will go back to the deck, explain the cards, and also explain my choices. So let's zoom in on the deck and explain some of the cards for you guys, and also like the cards that I play. Alright, so let's zoom in on the deck. After that we'll go back and show you my matches, and then we will explain the deck. Or why I chose for these cards. So it's the Turbo GB8, one of my favorite builds. It's not the hybrid anymore, so it's more standard turbo or bad end turbo. So we start with 4 copies of the bad end dragger, of course, in SP, because why not? We could pimp him and he deserved to be pimped. 4 copies of this guy, then we add 2 copies of Juggernaut Maximum, and then we add the 4 copies of Jelly Beans to be able to turbo. So 10 grade 3s. And the extra or the joker in this list will be, of course, the Juggernaut Maximum, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then we go to the grade 2 lineup. We start with the 4 copies of Spike Bouncer, an amazing card. You need to have him in your GB8 build, of course. And then we add in the 4 copies of Detonate Burrow. It's a new addition to the deck. We took out the Mayhem Tiger, which was the hybrid build, and we put in this card. This card is amazing, does a lot of work. We'll talk about our choices later on. And then for the last grade 2 we have in this deck, which we play only 10, you play 2 copies of the Devil Dome. Alright. Then for the grade 1s. 4 copies of Wonder Boy, amazing card, does help out a lot with the combo. Then we add in the tier, also at 4, something that I always like to play. And then we add in the 4 copies of Acrobat Verdi to be able to stride without having to pay a heavy cost. Then for the grade 0s, we start with the 2 copies of Mega Trainer, the old one, to search out your heals or PGs or anything you need, stride folder sometimes. And then you add in, of course, the 4 deadly heals because they are searchable with your Jelly Beans. And then we add in 4 crits, being the one from the premium collection. This one does help to get you more draw power during your striding turns, but also it does work in situations where you have just to guard with a 15k shield, which is amazing. That's why we don't play more draws than 8s. Talking about the 8 draws, of course, we have the 4 PGs and then the 4 copies of Cheerful Linux. Alright, that's it for the main deck. Now we go to the extra deck. We run 1 copy of Seabreeze, then we add in the 2 copies of Merendol as most of the time your first stride or something to flip. To flip with the Violence Ace, also add 2 important. Then we add in 2 copies of the Horde 8. Normally I only play 1. I add in 2 for the Kagero matchup and he works really good. Then we add in 1 Formido, an amazing card. First of all I didn't play him, but now that I've been testing him more and more, I do see the necessary value of having him in this deck. Then the one copy of the Good End, of course. And then for the G Guardians, we play one Rectum, one Desmil, two Hecaton, and then of course the 4 copies of the Terrible Linus, the king of interceptions. And the reason why this deck is so good. Alright, now let's go into the matchups, and after that we will explain how does this deck work and also the choices that I made with the help of some of my friends. So first we have a lot of shoutouts to do, which is amazing. So it was the Butcher Championship Series 2019 in France, in Mouvaux, and I was able to get in 6th in the Swiss. And we had a Swiss of 8 rounds, which is perfect, and I went 6-2, but lost from only a player that went undefeated, and the other player, I lost my last round going from table 2, so I could not have got kicked out of the top 8, because of course I was the highest 6-2 of the tournament, which was amazing. First, a lot of shoutouts to my friends that went with me to France. It was amazing. We had an amazing weekend. I got top 8 in both days, but not only for the results. Also, we had a lot of fun. We enjoyed the food. The people there were very friendly and welcoming, so that's pretty amazing. My friends that went with me, of course, Fira, Dave, Devin, Chris, Sparkles, Jeroen, Laura, and Wesley. It was very sad that Wesley was not able to play both days because he was getting very sick, and Laura had to judge the first day, but on the second day she had to go home with Wesley, so that was a little bit sad. But we also have Varian, we have Jeroen, we have Daniel. Daniel did so good, Jeroen too in both days, Sparkles also on the second day especially, and also some people from Zola like Kevin and the others, and from France itself, like Axel, like Sorella, like Daniel, like a lot of my friends, Togen, a lot of my friends that were there. Also saw Chris from Different Fight, Maxime from Solomon Vanguard, and Eric from Vanguard Insider, especially on the first day. On the second day he had to go home with Wesley and Laura. And one of my good friends, Luke, which helped me with the building this deck, thinking about the choices that we made, which we'll go into in a minute. And also Dominic John, congrats to him on going first yet again and going towards this year. Also congrats to Mohammed on taking first place in the premium tournament, and congrats to Dominic John on getting Kaelan on getting the first place on the standard day, and also top 8 on the second day. So that was amazing. Alright, so in the Swiss we had to play again 8 rounds. We had about 160 players, which is amazing. On the first day we had about 200 players for standard, but this is of course premium. The first 2 rounds I had a buy card, so I could just enjoy watching my friends play, getting something to drink, to eat, and to relax a little bit. And then on the third round, which is the most important round if you have the 2 rounds being a buy, because your opponent already got in 2-0 and he's just getting into the game, and for you, you're just fresh, so you're just going in there. So that's normally the most, let's say, difficult round to play. I had to play against Dark Regulars. I do practice the match a lot. I play Darks myself, so I know how the deck works. And the strategy going with this deck is to give them 0 damage. And by giving them 0 damage, they can't do much. So in the old build, they did play cards like, let's say, Bobo. But now they don't, because you have Neo Nectar. So Neo Nectar is also like a bitch in this meta, but also it does like work very well for spikes, having Neos and Darks in the current meta, so you can go against both. The spikes really could build the deck around having different meta. It doesn't really matter, you could change some of the cards to still make the deck playable and very good. Alright, then in the second round I had to play against Link Jokers, against Kaelan. He played Messiahs, which is interesting, but we had a problem during that game. Like the judge had to come in. We didn't even call the judge, but there was an error made by Kaelan, which was alright. We wanted to continue, but we couldn't. So the judge called the game loss for Kaelan, but it was alright because he still was able to get into the top 8, which is amazing. Alright, then we had, I had to play against Kagero. It was a very long ass match. We got into timeout and also the 10-minute rule, and because of that we got a double loss. But I wasn't, I didn't want to get the double loss, so I gave my opponent the win, which was Anthony, also named as the Detective from France, which was able to get in 3rd both days, actually, standard and premium, so that's pretty amazing. Then I had to play against Neo-Nectars the first time that day. Neos would always be a hard matchup for all the decks, but in Spike you pretty much try to survive a Katrina or 2 Katrina turns, then get into your GP8 because you have a lot of defense, and they can't really do stuff that you don't know they would do. They have like the 5 strong attacks, and that's pretty much it. You could just try to guard all of them, and then you're set to go. Then I had to play against Dark Irregulars. Again, it's a win for me. Dark Irregulars is a good matchup for Spike, in this meta at least. So it was pretty sad that in the top 8 we had so little Dark Irregulars. I wanted to have more because they are good matchups for me. They're better than Neo-Nectars or Kagero or any other deck to play against. Especially not Oracle Think Tank, because the winner was Mohammed. He was playing Oracle Think Tank, which is a pain in the ass for Spikes, but I didn't have to play against him. I have a game plan versus OTT, but again, it's the pain in the ass, as I said. Alright, then I had the loss against Kagero. He kicked my ass. I toot past his Vanguard, and I think he only had Twin Drive, but he still was able to get crit, and I went from 2 damage to 6 damage, and I lost. So yeah, we couldn't say much about that. Then we got to the top 8, had to play against Neo-Nectars. The guy was very unlucky to get only 1 trigger during my GB8 turn, so he went from 0 damage to 5 with only 1 trigger. Then he got Miracle Heal on the 6th damage, so that was amazing, but still with that he was not able to let's say defend my GB8 turn, so he lost. Then in my top 4 match was again against Neo-Nectar, against Hal, which he got in 2nd. Yeah, he got in 2nd, so congrats to him as well. He's going to Worlds, so that's amazing. He got really a lot of triggers, and I was so close to getting to my GB8 turn, but I was 1-5k too short, so I had to guard with my whole hand, and I top deck a grade 3, but it's not enough to get to your GB8 turn because I had no rear guard and nothing in hand except that grade 3, so I had to go into another violence ace, but I didn't draw enough shield, and my drive check was also grade 3, and grade 2, I think, something like that, or triple grade 3. So I didn't have enough shield to stop his last Katrina attack, and he kicked my ass, so he won. And then he played the finals against Mohammed and then got 2nd place. And on my last game, which was 3rd and 4th place, that was a very strange game because I actually didn't want to win that game because, again, I'm not going to Worlds. It was the decision that I made, and I'm very happy with my decision because I had to put priority on college this year, so I didn't want to go to Worlds. What I wanted to do is get you guys another top, get the playmat, because I really wanted the playmat because we had this playmat also for the Zeros Dragons from last year, and now we got them for this Dragons, so that's pretty cool. So that's what I wanted. I wanted playmat, and I was happy to get a certificate or a medallion, but I didn't want to take somebody else's place who's going towards. So I was okay with Anthony winning that game, but also the way I lost that game was just crazy. He went first, then it was on my turn that I wanted to go to grade 2. I had to G-assist and I got nothing. Then he was able to go to grade 3. Then I G-assisted on grade 2 yet again and I got nothing. Then he was able to stride when I was on grade 1 and I survived. And then I G-assisted for the 2nd time for grade 2 and I got nothing. and then he was able to stride for the second time, and I lost. So yeah, we could do nothing about that. It was okay. Also, it was just fine because I would not go towards anyway, and I'm happy that he was able to win that match. Also, my deck was like showing me, bro, you will not win. Okay, you will see the pictures. I've put them already on Facebook. I was number 39, which is pretty cool because that's the year I was born, and also this is the marker that I always use to put all my maps that you can see that I'm playing. Also in the pictures that you see, it's me playing Spike Brothers most of the time, and always playing Spike Brothers. Alright, so let's go back to the deck, explain some of the cards and also some of my choices for you guys, that you could know why I built the deck like this. For the trigger lineup, I will not have to talk a lot about this. I mean that you guys know that this deck needs to play a lot of draws. So playing the 8 draws, I've seen people try to take him out or the crit out to play something different in this deck, like the Mega Instructor to have the combo that you could still go bad end, or you could also play cards like more draws. It's really up to you. So this is the card that you could change in this lineup, let's say, for the trigger lineup. But for me, this card works the best. It has multiple reasons why it's in this deck. The shield value is high, which is good to guard in the early game, but also it could just go to your soul, follow your soul, and also give you more draw power if you are searching for your heals or your PGs or combo pieces or whatever you want. But normally you want your combo pieces in your deck, so normally you're just searching for heals and draws. Then for the 4 heals, being the one who counter charge and soul charge, but also being the one with deadly in the card name, is again multiple reasons to run this card. For the starter, I was thinking about taking one Mega Trainer out, but I really like having both of them in the deck. They do help a lot. That extra searcher does help a lot, but mostly they just search your heals or your PGs, or sometimes a stride folder. Talking about stride folders, I've seen people try to play only 3 Acrobat Verdi. With 3 you have more options to run, like you can even run a copy of him in here, but I wanted to play him at 4, and I also played him at 4 for the reason that I normally want to rewrite as much as I can to get more force markers, and those make a big difference. So that's why you run the Acrobat Verdi, because if you cannot use your Progenitor Dragon, so if you cannot go him, then you pretty much have to still stride using him or using a Jelly Beans, because you do not want to use your Badan Dragger or your Juggernaut to stride with. You want to rewrite them to get the value out of the markers. The 4 copies of Tier is something that I find very, very, very important. Of course, because he gives you the value back for your Spike Bouncer, for your Badan Dragger, especially those two. And Badan Dragger being able to put something back to your deck, meaning that you could use his skill yet again. So you could even call this guy out, use his ability, and then put him back to your deck with cards like Badan Dragger. So that's pretty amazing. And also, he looks pretty cute, right? He's the only cute card in this whole deck. So people have been trying to play him as Spike, at least at 1, because you could pretty easy get him to your hand using your Mega Trainer, or using like Picaro or any other stuff, or just drawing into him with your draw triggers and violence ace. But for me, I didn't want to play him because he's only good, in my opinion, in 2 matches, which is Pill Moon and Gold Paladins. So because of that, I didn't want to play him. But I could see people think, well, he's good to run, so I could understand that. I could understand people wanting to run him in this deck, which I will try. I will try to fit him at 1, taking maybe 1 tier out or 1 Acrobat Verdi, just to test how he works in the current meta, but I didn't really need him. But as you see, I didn't play against Golds, I did play against Neos, which you could maybe cut 1 attack out, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think that he's necessary in this deck. Then we have the Wonder Boy. In the Wonder Boy, now we have to talk about having this card in this deck. You play 4, which I find very good, but then it's the question to run Wonder Boy or to run Big Bloat Ted. and it really depends on what you value the most. So something is very important. The Wonder Boy could hit the same numbers as Big Blow Ted. And you people would say, well, huh? Why? How could that? Oh, or why do you think that, d.boy? Where the Big Blow Ted hit 8, 18, 28, 38, 48. So he hits the 8 numbers, while Wonder Boy hits the 13 number. So 13, 23, 33, and so on. So that would mean that if your opponent Vanguard takes 2 triggers, their Vanguard is 32 or 33. So Wonder Boy could hit the 33 and Big Blow Ted could hit 38 in that situation. Let's say that your opponent is on 43 or 53. It doesn't matter. He's always on the 3 or the 2 numbers. So 13, 23, 33, 43, which are the same numbers as Wonder Boy. So if your Wonder Boy could attack and the attack could hit, it would still mean 1 card for your opponent to discard. And with Big Blow Ted, it is the same, because Big Blow Ted is just 5k more, but he makes the 8 numbers. But if your opponent's Vanguard is at 42 and your Wonder Boy could only get to 32, then it's still the same, because 32 or 33 or 38 is the same. Both of them could not hit the 42 numbers. So that's why, in my opinion, they hit the same numbers, because we are counting that your opponent only plays the 10k triggers and not the 5k triggers. Some of them do play the 5k triggers, which it could make a difference, but in my opinion, just go with Wonder Boy. The reason why you play Wonder Boy, so that's like the good thing about Ted, he's 5k more. But Ted could only put grade 2s and higher back to your deck, while Wonder Boy could put your heals, your draws, PGs, he could put all of those back to your deck. And that does make a big difference, because sometimes you take a heal, like you're taking damage in the early game, and you end up with having a heal in your first damage and then another heal in your second or third damage. Because of that, you will heal one of your heals, so having that heal in the drop zone. If you do not get the chance to use your G-Guard yet, so you cannot put it back with his ability, then you pretty much have to rely on your Wonder Boy to put that heal back to your deck so you could research it. So that's why, in my opinion, the Wonder Boy is also so good. Also, when he's on the field, you just go into your soul to get you another Wonder Boy, which works. It does work and it does make differences. So that's why, in my opinion, the Wonder Boy is way more flexible than Big Blow Ted, and that's why he's in here. So that's the comparison number, let's say 2, because we also have compared him to one of your other great ones if you want to add him. Then we go to the grade 2s. Always play the 2 copies, or for me, I will play the 2 copies of Devil Dome. Devil Dome is a very important card to have in this deck. Him being a 6k means he could hit beneath everything when you ride into him and you do not want to do your opponent damage. Even if you go first, you ride into grade 2 and they are on grade 1. Most of your opponent grade 1 is 7k or 8k, so you could still hit the 6k beneath them. If you get the trigger, then you give it to one of your other Vanguard, so you do not hit, so you have another Vanguard being your Mega Trainer or something else. And at the same time, when you go to your GB8 turn, this card could hit amazing numbers because of his ability to Soul Blast 1. He doubles his power. So let's say you have 2 force markers and you have discard on the force markers. He would be 26 with the GB8 turn skill. He would be 36, but then he doubles his power. So the 30 becomes 60 and the 6 become 12. So that's 72 right there. And 72 could hit like above all the triggers that your opponent could have. Even if they still keep getting triggers, he could still hit that numbers. So he hits very, very, very high numbers and also very low numbers if you ride into him. So that's very important. This card is so good and it does put a lot of work in this deck. Alright, then we have the 4 copies of Spike Bouncer. Of course, you play Spike Bouncer, you don't play Ronaldo, because Spike Bouncer works with your GB8. Ronaldo only works when you get him from hand. If Ronaldo would work if you get him from deck, then that would be crazy strong in this deck. But I'm very happy that Bushro didn't do that. So the 4 copies of Spike Bouncer. Spike Bouncer is the card that makes a huge difference in this deck, getting a booster, getting another attacker, and also just attacking with him, put him into your soul to draw cards. I mean, the card works amazing. And then we have Detonating Barrel at 4. This is the card that replaced your Mayhem Tiger. Which is better? Mayhem Tiger is better. Mayhem Tiger is way better than Detonate Barrel. Why do I play Barrel right now? Well, Mayhem Tiger is better because Barrel is good in this meta. Why? Well, one big reason, but very important reason. Let's say that you put your opponent at 0 damage and you put them from 0 to 5. And let's say that 3 from 5, which should be fair, are triggers. And let's say they play Force, so their Vanguard is 43. 43 means that even if you have 2 Force markers, so let's say you have 2 Force markers right there, and you have your Mayhem Tiger. Your Mayhem Tiger will attack for 29, 39, right? Because of the GB8 skill. So 39, he is charged, he cannot hit your opponent's Vanguard because your opponent got 3 triggers and your opponent is at 43 or 42. So the 39 would not make a big difference. And that's the reason why you don't play Mayhem Tiger. Because you do not want to go to Mayhem Tiger in the early game, or I mean at the early of your GB8 turn, because they will just guard him. They will let him through, they will let the attack go through, and then they will take more damage. But when they go into 5 damage, then pretty much if they have like 3 triggers, then your Mayhem Tiger would not hit. If they have less than 3 triggers and you have more than 2 Force markers, then he will hit. But I was not taking that risk, so that's why I played Detonate Barrel. Detonate Barrel also is a very important card because if you end up against Neo Nectar, then this card puts a lot of work, the same as your Spike Bouncer. So it does make a big difference in this situation. But when we go into a meta which is slower or with more control decks and less rush decks, then I could say we could play cards like Mayhem Tiger. For the grade 3 lineup, of course we play the 4 copies of Jelly Beans. Jelly Beans is a very important key piece in this deck when he searches out your heals, but also because he goes back to your deck, meaning you have an extra stride folder into the deck, which is something that this deck actually needs, an extra stride folders, because your acrobat verdies are not enough, and because you do not want to ride, use them to stride with and not ride. So the 4 copies of the Bad End Dragger. This card has a very hidden ability, 2 hidden abilities. The first one is, of course, when you ride on the top of him, he gets out of your soul and he could retire a column. The cards you want to retire is, of course, cards like these, because you want to get rid of his ass so he will not be a pain in your ass. So that's one of his hidden abilities. His second hidden ability is, of course, in his cost. When he attacks, you counterblast 1, you put one of your regards back to your deck, and then he gets an extra crit and 5k. The extra crit is important because that would mean that he could play around the stride from Zoo, like their nation stride, which is good because now you could just like give them the extra damage, and they have to guard that attack as well. But also the cost is important of this card, just putting one of your regards back to your deck. The regard that you want to put is like a Wonder Boy or a tier, or some of your great ones that you cannot put back to your deck. And by putting a Wonder Boy, the Wonder Boy, you could recall him and he will get you like a Spike Bouncer, and the Spike Bouncer back to your deck, and Spike Bouncer means 2 extra attacks. So that's like very important things that you could do with this card. You could also like keep putting themselves back to your deck, like you could attack with this, put him back to your deck, and then put the GB8 skill on a booster or something that recall him and do some of those crazy stuff. Like there are a lot of good combos that you can do with him, but mostly he's just good as a Vanguard and a rearguard, and he also gives you, of course, the option to go for your good end. And your good end is just in here to create the extra marker. He's not in here to finish your opponent off, but again, he does give you the option to go to good end, which gives you more markers, and more markers meaning a better GB8 turn. And now we come to the last card option that we could have in this deck. And I know that this is something that most people would say, hey d.boy, there is no reason to play Juggernaut Maximum, you should play Bull Spike because Bull Spike is better with good end. Yes, I know, I mean, I've built that deck and I know how it works, and I have also done a deck profile on it, and I could do one more because the deck now is upgraded, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, I agree, but there is a downside to this strategy. Because you're only playing 2 copies of Bull Spike, you cannot gamble on him because sometimes you get him in your drive check, sometimes you get him in your hand, sometimes you have him in the damage, and sometimes you don't have him in your deck, which means you cannot use him with good hand. So if you want to go for that strategy, use at least 3 or 4 copies of Bull Spike. Then people would say, okay, so do not play Bull Spike, play Siegfried, because Siegfried is a very good Vanguard, especially if you go first, then he could put pressure on your opponent, he has the hit ability, you could kill them right there. Yes and no. First of all, I will not gamble on having only those 2 Siegfrieds and then getting him into my hand. If I go first, then he makes a big difference. There is a lot of if, when, and stuff, so I will not gamble on that. While having the Juggernaut Maximum, he is a very good Rearguard and okay Vanguard. You ride into him, you get the 10k, you could like kill a Rearguard or something, which Siegfried could do as well. But mostly, you just have him as a Rearguard, and he's the only card other than your let's say your Bad and Dragger that has a viable good ability as a Rearguard, because you also have the Wolf, which could also put some of your cards back to your deck, but the Wolf had to Soul Blast grade 3s and I don't know. I mean, maybe in the future, but for now, the Juggernaut Maximum is very important to have in this deck at 2. If you could play more, then you would play more, but just more cards with force markers to create force markers, and also the art. He is the original, the only one original rare that we have as Spike Brothers. I mean, it's so good to have to play this old art in this deck. It just reminds me of a lot of good memories. Alright, so that was actually it for this deck profile. So I would like to thank you all. I would like to say again thanks for everybody that helped us to also participate in this tournament, like the French community, Arnaud, all the other judges, Steven, everybody who did like their best for us to play in this tournament. And again, guys, another Spike Top. Oh yeah, another one in premium, and for this year we have a standard and a premium one, which is something that I am very happy and very proud to do for you guys, and also for me, because one of my dreams, or one of the reasons why I play this game, is to put Spike at the map yet again. So Spike in premium and Spike in standard, having or getting to the top 8, I will not say easily, but getting to the top 8 with all the odds stacked against them, we still get our tops for this year. So thanks again for watching, until next time.